Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Amy. I'm Fiber Arts Amy here and on Instagram. So today, this is going to be a quilting video, or primarily a quilting video, because if you've watched me before, you know that, like, my mind might go anywhere. But my intention is to be filming a quilting video. Welcome to all of you, whether you're new or returning. I'm very happy to see you here. Today I'm going to do something like a little bit different. So I haven't been getting a lot of quilting done lately, or a lot less than I'd like to be doing. It's just been hard finding craft. I'm going to say this probably every video from now until forever. But I haven't been getting as much quilting done as I'd like to lately. The quilting I have been doing is mostly handwork, mostly English paper piecing. Sorry about like the weird light. That's probably going, hopefully it doesn't bother you guys too much. Any minute now the sun's gonna get high enough that I'm not gonna have that right on my face. But I'm sitting here for a reason. I just like squirreled in the middle of my own sentence. I'm sorry. Okay, so first, why I'm sitting here. I'm going to show the, there's 3 English paper piecing projects that I have worked on since I saw y'all last. And I want to share those. Those are easy to move around because they're like in little bags. And then I have this great big bookshelf. It's not that great big, but a decent sized bookshelf next to me. And what I want to do is go through some of my quilting library with you guys. I love it when other people show what they use, like their favorite books and things. So I'm going to spend some time going through that and sharing that with you guys. Kind of like a little stash dive of my books and patterns. I'm not going to go through all of them. My books, quilting books, are spread through 4 rooms in this house. I try to keep everything, mostly everything here, so it should all be here. You sometimes buy 2 copies of something. I do have second copies of certain books at our cabin. But mostly everything's in this house. But like there's some in here, there's some in my stitching nook, there's some up in my bedroom, and there's a bunch in the basement. And I am not the most organized person. Typically every few years I will go through and do some new like reorganization kind of and try to get similar items together. But I like never have everything all together at once. It's a work in progress for me. But this bookshelf is where I have taken care to put some of my favorites. Some of my like the books that if they ever got lost, I would absolutely need to replace them. They're like my top most favorite books. So I'm going to go through a bunch of those. Excuse me. I've made a tiny bit of progress on some machine sewing, but not really anything worth showing you. And then I'm also working on a set of quilts that are secret sewing right now. So I will show you guys those eventually, but they're not ready, and I don't want to show them until they've gone to their forever homes. So that's why no machine sewing today. Does that cover everything? Today's March 11th. It's Monday. My day's already off to an exciting start. If you are here from FlossTube, I have dyed. Excuse me. I spent the whole weekend working. I spent so many hours pressing fabric for Oak Crown Studios for my hand-dyed fabric company. So this week I'll be getting out, like when I'm done with this video, I'm going to start doing the shipping process, the labeling and shipping, and sending out orders. So if you've been waiting on orders, not like orders placed this last week, but like older orders, they should be coming at you soon. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to show you is my trip around the world. And I didn't even look up the woman's name, which is awful. I'll try to remember to link this below. So last year, maybe even a little over a year ago, Someone I follow on Instagram, and she's a designer. Oh, that is, here, that's better. She published a pattern for a hexie trip around the world quilt pattern. So these are just 1-inch hexies, and it's not like a hard pattern. You're just making a giant flower until you get to a good size, and then you do the corners to make it rectangular, to make it like a good, I think it's like a good twin size quilt. And of course you could make it bigger if you wanted to. It was great though because she did the math for us. So the pattern comes with the information of like how much fabric you need, right, for each round of the quilt. So since you guys saw it last, I think I finished adding this round. Nope, that's not true. I finished adding this round. I think I was in the middle of adding this round. Maybe? Yeah, I think I was in the middle of adding this round. And these rounds get very big. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. So I have 11 rounds complete. So my vision for my hexie trip around the world was to fussy cut everything. I pulled a bunch of fabrics initially to pull from, and I was just very intentional about what I picked. Now I think her original vision for this was, and I might get the math wrong, but I want to say it was like, if you do so 6 hexies a day, you would have the quilt done by the end of the year or something. Now, I didn't do that. I was going really strong for a while, and then partway through last year, well, you know what, when I started Oak Crown Studios, things got busier, and I kind of pooped out. But this quilt has been staring at me longingly, and saying, work on me, Amy, pick me up. Sorry I'm being really weird. Anyway, I finally was like, screw it, I'm gonna work on it. So, when I probably should have been stitching, or I felt like I should have been stitching, I picked this up instead. So I finished this little mushroom round, and then I've got a lot of the next round attached. So the way that I do it is I will go all the way around attaching the hexies, and then once they're all attached, then I will go and seam up in between each hexie. The only exception is when I'm starting a thread. So here, these two are already attached because I ended a thread here at this point. And so when I went to attach this hexie, I started my thread there and went down and over. So there's a handful that are already attached that I won't have to do when I'm putting them together. But that's just how I like to do it. There's a lot of different ways people approach these kinds of quilts, but I'm really enjoying this. And I had pulled a selection of fabrics originally to use in this, and ended up deciding I need way more. If you've been watching for like a while, you might remember, or not, that a while back, maybe, I don't know, last summer or something, I went to a quilt, actually, you know what, it was about a year ago, because last year I went to the Steel City Stitch Retreat. I'm not going this year, but it's in my town, and there's a quilt shop. It's not like on the way to Steel City, but it's far away, and so it was Steel City Stitch Retreat's on like the opposite side of town for me. Anyway, I went to this quilt shop, and I focused on getting fabrics that would be good for fussy cutting, for English paper piecing. And so I want to add a bunch to this quilt. So my idea for this quilt, for the fabrics, was really to keep it kind of, not quite low volume, but like medium volume. I want it to be very soft visually and blending. You know, some variation, some contrast, definitely, so you can see the pattern, but I don't want it to be, like, I love Tula Pink, right? I'm doing Tula Pink. I want it to be like pizzow, pizzow, pizzow. You know what I mean? Like my sound effects. This I just wanted to be more like soft and lovely and cozy and just like I can see myself curling up under my epic Hexy trip around the world quilt with a mug of hot chocolate and a good book while it's raining outside. That's my like story for my quilt. So I'm trying to keep it less like high contrast, more just kind of soothing colors. So anyway, now even though she gives fabric requirements in the pattern, if you're fussy cutting, you're gonna need more fabric. So that gets a little bit tricky. But here's some of the other fabrics that I pulled. I don't know what's actually gonna end up in the quilt, but these are some of the fabrics that I'm thinking about. And most of the, there's a dust bunny one. Most of these, it's not a problem, like quantity-wise, but like for the longest rounds, those I'm gonna have to have like at least a yard of certain fabrics to make them work. I could always kind of cheat by doing like an alternating round, right, where it's like 2 different fabrics and I alternate them, but I don't know that I want to do that. This has got to make it in there somewhere. I think that's gonna be, I love prints like this. I love that it has the flowers and it has the flower names. That's awesome. These butterflies, how much of this do I have? See, I've got a yard of this fabric, and I kind of love how these butterflies are kind of spread out, because I'm not going to be like wasting a bunch in between, but still by the time I fussy cut those butterflies, there's just only so many butterflies on this fabric, right? So it's not quite the same as cutting up a yard of fabric that you're not fussy cutting. These have got to make it in there somewhere, because this is very much like what I was envisioning for the quilt, with just these soft, soothing kind of fabrics. These I think are going to make it in there. I'll have to play around a little bit though, because they're a little bit big for the 1-inch hexies, but I still think they'd really work and look really good. Sorry, they were blowing out a little bit there. This one, I don't have to fussy cut quite so much. I have another fabric in the quilt that's got like some strong color in it with a white background, and I think it'll stand out less if I do a couple more of those. So I think this one would be a good option. And I would like center clumps of the red flowers while fussy cutting. This one, so pretty. This one, I like having some that have this like taupe, even like light brown background. This one I don't have a ton of. This one I'm guessing is going to be on one of the like outermost rounds where I just don't need as much. Okay, this also I don't have much of, but it has to go in honor of my son who loves chickens. Do any of y'all buy the same, you must, buy the same fabric like multiple times without realizing that you've done it? This is that fabric, and I'm sure it's because of my son and his love of chickens, but like so I have a bunch of this pulled to work on a quilt for him that we're like improvising together, which I don't know if I've shown you guys. If I have, not for a while, I'll have to show you. Anyway, I think this is like the fabric that every time I'm at a quilt shop, I'm like, oh, roosters, my son loves chickens. I need to get that for him. And it keeps ending up like more and more in my stash. That's fine. Bumblebees, which I think are really cute. Nice soft peach color. Butterflies and flowers. And I don't know that all of these are going to end up in there, but it was fun pulling bigger selections. This might, I'm not sure. This one might be like too bold, but I'll have to wait and see what else ends up in there, I think, before I decide whether to include that one. This is so pretty. I could fussy cut all those tops of the flowers. I think I'd be really happy with it. And then this one's so great. I really want to use this one. There's mice and all the apples. Some have been cut, some have been munched. And look at the cute little mice. There's orange mice too. Does he have his tail? He's got his tail like right in front of that pink apple core. Anyway, that, I love apples. And I love apples. I used to keep my son, my middle son, entertained with an apple. And it used to drive other moms crazy. So, you know how, like, people feel very free to walk up to mothers or parents of young children and, like, correct what they're doing, right? Be like, you need to put a hat on that baby, and, like, that kind of thing. It drives me crazy. So I used to go through it with my middle child, Logan, because I would give him an apple, probably starting at, like, 6 months. He had teeth, a couple of them. And we would go into the grocery store, and the first thing I would do would buy an apple. And then I could grocery shop for an hour and a half while he slowly ate that apple and was happy as a clam. There were just lots of situations. I went to a quilt show once by giving him an apple. I spent hours at that quilt show. He had an apple. He was happy. But people used to love to come up to me and be like, you can't let a baby have an apple. I was like, that apple is the best mom hack I have ever come up with. Sorry, that was a total aside, but I have, like, a special love for apples. A, because I like them, and B, because it's, like, a thing I have with my kids. Sorry, moving on. So the same trip around the world quilt. And just so you can see how kind of I'm approaching this. Well, first of all, I bought a, so if you're into English paper piecing or you want to start, the best place to go is paperpieces.com. They have a million shapes and different blocks and things. I bought a bulk pack of 1-inch hexes. You can reuse the papers, typically, but only so many times before they're, like, too ratty and you gotta throw them away or recycle them, better off. So this is another fabric that's gonna end up in there. So I fussy cut these hexes. I haven't glued the fabric to the backside yet, but I didn't have enough because of the fussy cutting. I wanted to see if I'd have enough of this fabric to use in one of the rounds, and I didn't. Because of the fussy cutting, I would have had to have way more fabric. So I basically fussy cut everything I could from the fabric, and this will get used later on in the quilt. Because like I said, the rounds grow to a certain point, basically until you get to the full width of the quilt, and then everything starts to decrease quite dramatically, because at that point you stop sewing on the two of the sides, and you're just sewing on part of the top 2 sides and the bottom 2 sides to continue to get some more height and some more height and length to the quilt. So anyway, this will end up, I love this fabric. This will end up in there eventually. But I've just been using the bag from Paper Pieces to stay organized. Here's all of my fresh new hexes that haven't been used yet, the papers. Sorry, the glare and blowing out. And then I've just been keeping these in the front side, like there's a paper from Paper Pieces that comes. I'm just using it as a divider. And I've just been keeping hexes in the front that still need to go on. And these are the hexes that I'm currently working with. Yeah, onto the quilt. So the next quilt, let me get a sip of water. How have I already been talking this long? I hope y'all don't mind me just, like, blathering on. I feel like I'm very off topic. So the thing that's been getting most of my attention, English paper piecing wise, is my Marquise quilt kit from Tula Pink. It is not done. It is at the point, though, where I'm feeling like it's almost done, even though it's not. I'm definitely, I don't know. Okay, so there's 4 rows. Here, I should show you the picture. There's 4 rows in the quilts. I've mentioned it before. This is long out of print. It's possible you could find it on a secondary market somewhere. I don't know. I bought it back in the day when it was available, and it got, like, put on a shelf for, like, one day I'll learn how to English paper piece. And turns out I love English paper piecing, and I pulled this back out. So I have the top 3 rows completely finished. So there's the, sorry you're not gonna be able to see the whole thing. The top, the next row, and then I finished getting the bottom, since you guys saw this last. I finished getting the bottom row on. I can't see what you're seeing. So that, or sorry, I finished getting what is currently my bottom row. It's not the bottom row of the quilt because I have 3 rows done and there's a 4th row that needs to go on. So this is where we stand right now, and I'm really excited. I'm also more of a cool color person, so I was really excited to get to start finally making like some of these teals and blues and greens, the diamonds. So I have been working on this, I think it was like a sashing row, because in between each row of diamonds there's a row of white and a row of gray, and they alternate what order they go in. So I've gotten all of the white diamonds attached except for this one. So before I attach the diamond that goes here, I sew this edge, so these 2 are attached. So there's a couple of those to put on. But otherwise I've gotten all the whites attached, and I've started sewing the white pieces together, and I've actually gotten a lot of them. I've got most of it done, maybe. Hold on, now let me check. Oh wow, yeah, so I have almost all of the whites attached down to here. So I just need to finish sewing those whites together and then put on 2 more of those white diamonds that go there, and then I need to sew all the gray because there's a row of gray. It goes really fast though. So yeah, sew the row of gray, and then I can start adding the bottom line of diamonds, which I still need to assemble as well. I am very happy with this. This is awesome. This is gonna, I'm very proud of where I am so far on this quilt, and I am going to be extraordinarily proud when it is done. I don't know when it's gonna be done. I feel like every year for the last few years I've been like, I'm gonna finish that quilt this year. I would be thrilled if I finished it this year. I'm not. I wouldn't place any bets on it though. Sorry, I just moved you with my project back. So anyway, that has definitely been like a English paper piecing focus. I'm pretty much just gonna like chat until I don't feel like chatting anymore, especially once I start showing you guys my books. My floor is dirty. Okay, the last English paper piecing project I've been working on is something that I'm doing with, I'm making the entire quilt with fabrics that I've dyed. So some of you know I started Oak Crown Studios dyeing cross-stitch fabric. I also dye quilt fabric because I want to. It can't just be me, right? That like I'll see a beautiful cross-stitch fabric and be like, oh, I want to quilt with that. I go through that. So, yeah, I started dyeing quilting fabric and I'm using it. I love it. So I don't have a ton done yet, but this is the project that I've been working on. Celestial Skies. And so it's a bunch of different star blocks. It's all English paper pieced. Well, I say that except for the border. It looks like they put on a straight border on the edges. But other than the border, it's all English paper pieced. In these like white spaces, there are big hexagons that are pieced in there. But my vision for this is a little bit different. I'm not like following their color scheme. What I'm doing is using, I have so much stuff in my lap right now. I'm using, for the background, I'm using fabric that I've dyed in an indigo vat. So for those of you who don't know, one of the types of dyeing I do is natural dyeing. So I use like plant stuffs and natural materials to the way people did it for hundreds of years to dye things. I really enjoy doing that. I've been doing that since long before I started Oak Crown Studios. Because I started doing it with like fiber arts, with like knitting and spinning and that sort of thing. Anyway, I'm using an indigo blue background. So this is quilting cotton that I dyed in an indigo vat to get me that really, like, to me, very deep, dark blue background. So with the indigo vat, there's some variation. It's like a hand-dyed fabric, right? I mean, it is a hand-dyed fabric. There's some variation in it. It's not all uniform. That piece is really pretty. These are some of the bigger hexies that are going to end up in the quilt. So I just dyed, actually, I have a lighter side of it sticking out. This huge piece of yardage of indigo fabric, and that's what I'll use for the borders and everything too, instead of having the white. And then when I was originally dyeing all of the colors for Oak Crown Studios, I was dyeing samples on linen, Lugana, and Ada, and I was also dyeing a quilting cotton sample. I have color cards that have all those samples attached to them, so I have like a physical object I can refer back to for color. But, so basically when I used a layer cake to dye the quilting cotton samples, because it's what I had on hand at the time. And so basically I cut out a piece to attach to my sample card, but then I'm left with all of these layer cake squares from all of the colors that I've been dyeing. There's more. Here are more. I'm making a star out of these right now. So anyway, I've been pulling from these to make the stars that will be on the indigo blue background. Does that make sense? So this is the first star that I made. Now, I'm drawn very much to like cool colors, to blues, purples, greens. So I have to work kind of hard to get out of that, hence me working on one that has these colors. But my first one looks like this, and I love it. I love it. I haven't done a ton of English paper piecing that is like more complex and like different shapes going together in different ways and whatnot. I mean, some of these pieces are teeny tiny. Sorry, I just got a message from Maggie. It took me a second. So I'm gonna, my diamond, or my hexagons that I'm piecing together are gonna be all kinds of different combinations of these fabrics. And then they'll be floating in the indigo blue background, and I think it's gonna be amazing. I can't wait for this quilt. It's English paper pieced, so who knows when it's gonna be done. But I'm very excited about it. I think it's gonna be amazing. So for the next one, I've gotten as far as prepping the pieces, and they're tiny, so I'm trying to get them out for you. But they are small. Oh, I haven't even finished prepping the pieces because some of them still need to be glued down on the reverse side. That's okay. You see? Smooth, Amy. Really smooth. Alright. Kind of see colors that I chose. I just don't want to lose any. So anyway, this is the next hexie, like big hexie that I'm going to put together. And I just need to make time for it. Because making time for actually crafting is definitely my newfound challenge over the last several months. For so long, I had so much more, like, leisure time. I could have been cleaning the house, but didn't. So, anyway, it's still, like, right, finding time. I know a lot of you understand that, because all of us have, probably all of you understand that, because we all have other things in our lives, right? Friends, family, work, all kinds of stuff. Starting the business has just been, like, a big change for me. So still working on finding that balance, and I fully expect I will be working on finding that balance for forever. But I'm working on it, so that's the good news. If I'm working on it, there's hope, right? I should do one of these live sometime so y'all can actually talk to me, and it's not just like me sitting in my house talking to myself. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the indigo fabric for a minute. If you are a religious watcher of me, this may not be any new information, but it's interesting. And so I'm going to say it again. And I do get questions about it pretty frequently. So for the sake of thoroughness, we're going to talk about it again. Okay. So indigo fabric. I love sewing with it. I love quilting with it. Fabric that's been dyed in indigo. I love knitting with it. I love cross-stitching on it. Here's the thing. Indigo fabric that's been dyed with indigo is just like a new pair of blue jeans. Indigo is pretty notorious for crocking. Crocking is when you, the dye will rub off on your hands or whatever surface without the fabric being wet. So if you, let's say you're knitting with indigo dyed yarn and your hands turn blue, or your knitting needles turn blue if you're using bamboo knitting needles, the dye hasn't run. You need water for dye to run. The dye has crocked. It has crocked off or rubbed off in a dry state. Indigo is kind of notorious for that. So the way I work with it to make myself feel comfortable that I'm not going to ruin a project, right, by, and it also will run. That's not to say that indigo won't run. It will. But mostly people see color transfer through crocking, not running with indigo. Anyway, the way I treat my indigo dyed fabric so that I feel comfortable that I can work with it is I just wash it a lot. So when I dye, so indigo has to be done in a vat. I do this outside because it makes a mess. Dye is going to drip and drop everywhere. It just will. Run down your arms. It can get all over the place, so I do it outside, and I hang it to dry. So once you put the indigo in a vat, I have a whole video that shows me doing this. You take it out of the vat, you hang it to dry, you need to wait for the color change to happen. Indigo only attaches to the fabric when it's in its reduced state and it's yellow in color. So right when you take fabric out of an indigo vat, it's actually yellow, and then you hang it up, and over time it will oxidize and turn blue. So I let my fabric usually hang for 24 hours just to make sure we're good. Then I rinse it outside with a garden hose, and then I wash it in the washing machine, usually at least 6 times. And we kept an old pair of my husband's jeans that I actually throw in with it, so that that helps just increase the agitation and that like crocking action, that like friction, to hopefully get any loose dye to rub off, or any looser dye to rub off. So if you order indigo dyed fabric from me, this is what it's going through. I did some dyeing 2 days ago. Yesterday morning, I woke up, it was still outside lying on the, hanging on the line and covered in snow. Because here in Pittsburgh yesterday, March 10th, we had a snowstorm. I'm hoping the indigo vat will, I like used this tiny window I had of a few days where it wasn't dropping below freezing to get some indigo dyeing done, because I have some customers who've been waiting for that. But I can't be below freezing because I do it outside. Anyway, so that's, when I'm making this quilt, I'm going to feel comfortable throwing it in the washing machine with a color catcher, and I'm going to feel comfortable that everything's going to be okay. If I was ordering somebody else's indigo dyed fabric, I would wash it a time or two in my washing machine first before using it. The reason for that is that different water can affect how much dye runs. So I'm pretty confident with this because it's been washed in my water and the end product will be washed in my water. But if it was going to be washed in different water, then I might have a concern, right? So like if you live in Tennessee, I can't tell you if the dye is still going to run. So again, just like a new pair of jeans, run it through the wash a couple of times. Anyway, that's all. So just so you can see the variation in indigo vat. So this was a huge piece of fabric. It was much bigger than I really should have put in the indigo vat all at once. I think it was a 4-yard cut. So I thought I had, so when you put it in the vat, then you have to kind of like open up the folds and try to make sure the dye is hitting everywhere. Well, there was an area on the end of the cut that stayed folded in the vat, and so the dye didn't hit it the same way. So I get this lighter tone here, and for my purposes that's fine because I'm cutting this up into tiny pieces, so it's actually kind of convenient. But I've got the darker indigo here, a lighter indigo shade I can draw from there if I want to. Trying to fold this back up. You can see the jagged edges where I was cutting my big hexies for the background. So indigo vats, you never know exactly how long they're going to last, how much dye is in them. This is some fabric I put in that became clear to me the vat was exhausted. Exhausted meaning no more, you know, it wasn't useful to be used anymore, although you can refresh a vat. So I also have this really light, beautiful shade of indigo. Again, just because it's not the sort of darker shades, it's still, and I actually been thinking about doing maybe like a gradient quilt with some indigo dyed fabric, because you do get such variation in the colors. And then some of you know, I also offer a fabric that's dyed in both turmeric and indigo. Even though so much in nature is green, it's actually very difficult to find natural dye stuffs that will give you a green dye. It's kind of doesn't exist. So typically what you have to do is use something to dye it yellow and then indigo to dye it blue and end up with a green. Natural dyeing is very imprecise. Some people who have been doing it far longer than me or far more often than me are much better at it. I do not want to present myself as, excuse me, as like an ultimate expert, because I'm not. I'm pretty experienced, but there's a lot of people out there far more experienced than I am. So some people are really good at like finding the shades that they want. So anyway, this is a piece of fabric, quilting fabric, that I dyed in turmeric. Turmeric gives you, and I am talking about turmeric from the grocery store. You literally put some in some hot water, dissolve it, and put your fabric in. So this was some turmeric dyed fabric. It was very, very yellow. And then I over dyed it with indigo by putting it in the indigo vat. And again, I love how it turned out. Right now, I'm not using this as one huge piece in something. This will be cut up into small pieces, and I love that I'll be able to target, like there's the best like green shade where you're seeing both yellow and blue coming through. But I'll end up cutting this up. I'm not sure in what yet. Maybe I'll do like a shades of indigo quilt. That would be fun. I have a lot of other natural dyeing planned if I can ever get to it. I have a lot of plans. Problem is they all take time. I do have all of these listed as both quilting cotton and cross stitch fabric in my website. If you're a quilter here and you're interested in buying any of these colors as quilting fabrics, you can still get them from my website. You just go pick like whatever color, like it'll look like it's a cross stitch fabric website. But I think the last option is for a fat quarter. I think there's a fat quarter option and like maybe a full yard option. But I'll give you continuous yardage up to a yard of whatever. So like if you buy 5 yards, I'm gonna do them in 1 yard increments because that's how I can keep the dye most consistent. So you would get 5 1-yard cuts, for example. If you ordered 2 fat quarters, unless you specify otherwise, I'll probably send you a 1/2 yard. Sorry. Someone's walking outside, so my dog thinks that she has to bark. And those fabrics were dyed a while ago. I've been using them for that quilt. Freya, it's okay. I'm really excited about it. But here's the thing I'm really excited about these days. Okay, so I haven't put this on the website yet. I'm hoping to get to that this week. But if you don't see it, if you actually want it and you don't see it on the website, just message me and I can get it for you. So here's what I did. I ordered some of Liberty Fabrics embossed fabric. So Liberty, so short course on Liberty for those of you who don't know. So Liberty's most well known for their, why are you all wet? For their Tana Lawn fabrics, which are a very, very fine, very thin, but very high quality fabric used for a lot of clothing. You can also use it for quilts. It's lovely to work with. Riley Blake in the United States has, I think, a license to produce, stop nose punching the tripod, dog, to produce some Liberty fabrics on quilting cotton. So if you're getting a Liberty fabric from Riley Blake, produced in the United States, it's on a quilting cotton base, which is still lovely. It's not the Tana Lawn stuff. Some people really don't want to quilt with the Tana Lawn because it is so fine. I mean, that's just personal choice. You do you. I quilt with the Tana Lawn and I love it. But it's definitely a much finer fabric, right? It's not as hardy as your typical quilting cotton. Anyway, my dog is being a pain in the butt. I might have to take her out. So what I did was they have a number of Liberty prints, Riley Blake does, Liberty prints that are embossed. So it's a white background fabric with white embossing on top of it. And I dyed it in indigo vat. So what happens is the fabric takes the indigo. Freya, 1 minute, I'm gonna have to take her out. But I'm gonna finish my sentence first. The fabric takes the indigo. Oh no, you're good. Play with your carrot. Maybe I won't have to take her. The fabric takes the indigo dye, but the embossing does not. The embossing stays white. Now it looks more of a light blue, simply because that white is now on top of an indigo dyed fabric. So this is the back of the fabric. So it looks a little more like light blue. Now I have to say, I historically have not been a fan of embossed fabrics. I'm not a huge like white on white fan. I'm more likely to like something a little more to my fabrics. And some embossing can feel plasticky. This is totally smooth and beautiful. I absolutely love it. So, and I actually have some more Liberty fabric, embossed fabric of a different print downstairs in the basement drying right now because it's so fun. Isn't that gorgeous? I don't know what I'm gonna do, but like I want to dye all of the Liberty embossed fabric now. It's so beautiful. And I think I'm gonna put it together with some woven fabrics. It's just I'm in love. Can you tell? This is like so stinking fun. So fun. And I can do this, like I did it with indigo, but I could do it with like anything. Like any of the colors I dye, I could do it and you'd get like a similar effect. I think it's just the coolest thing, and then adding in the fact that this fabric actually feels so good and doesn't have that like plasticky feeling that I was afraid it would. I'm just stinking thrilled, and I can't wait to dye with it. Anyway, I'll stop babbling on about that. I'm gonna pause for a minute so I can take my dog out. I will be right back. Hi everybody, I'm back. Okay, so since I had to get up anyway, I grabbed a bolt. So this is a different embossed fabric from Liberty. So you might be able to see, if you look at the fabric sideways, oh there, the embossing, right? Like if I'm just like this, it looks like a white fabric. But there is a pattern to it, and then it turns into that when you dye it. It's so cool. Okay, I'm done sharing. Okay, books. I love books, as I know so many of you all do. And when I can buy books on something else that I love, quilting, it brings me a lot of joy. So I have a lot of books. I have standalone patterns too. This bookshelf is packed. But like I said, I just want to kind of talk about some of my all-time favorites, and especially things that aren't maybe as commonly seen as others. It's like, I'm not going to show you any of the Lori Holt books. They're great. I like Lori Holt a lot. I'm in a Lori Holt fan club. But there's lots of people that show Lori Holt stuff. I'm not going to show you Lori Holt. Excuse me. I'm going to show you other stuff. Just other stuff that I don't see people talk about as much. Some of which is very old. Okay. So I'm going to start with Thimbleberries. So Thimbleberries was one of the first quilt designers that I guess I discovered or was introduced to. This book might be my favorite of hers. Collection of Classic Quilts. Now, I love very traditional quilts. Simple repeating blocks. I love other kinds of quilts too. But one of my favorites, and one of my favorites to make, because I find it relaxing and meditative if it's not too fussy, just simple repeating blocks are amazing. So Lynette Jensen, I'm assuming she's still alive. I don't know that for sure. She used to also design fabrics, and she did retire several years ago. It's been a little while, but the books are still really easy to find on the secondary market, and even sometimes I still find them like new in shops, right? It just might be old stock that they still have around. Her fabrics, I think if you look at her fabrics today, although I still love them, you might look at the color choices and whatnot and be like, oh, that's dated. But you don't need to use her colors is the thing. Definitely, if you can think outside the box, right, you can do these in whatever, and this color palette may be your color palette and you don't want to use different colors, and that's fine too. But also, just because a quilt is done in one color palette, right, doesn't mean that you can't do it in a different color palette. I'm flipping through so I can show you some things without, obviously, like, I don't want to give away secrets. Like, here's a close-up of part of a house quilt. How cute would that be to do, like, little, to use, like, Tula Pink fabrics and use, like, the animals from her Tiny Beasts collection in the windows of the cabins? That would be cool, right? Totally different take on it in terms of the fabric. Like, I love this. So I'm also a sucker for basket blocks. They're one of my favorites. I actually did this quilt. I just realized that. And I probably never showed you guys. I did a wall hanging. Yeah, I think this is the one that I use. I did a wall hanging that's actually hanging in our bathroom with just one of the blocks. Anyway, you could do anything you wanted color-wise, right? You don't need to stick to her, like this is very classic Lynette Jensen, Thimbleberries kind of color palette, but you can use anything you want. I mean, think about that in like a Sherry and Chelsea fabric line, or I'm blanking on the one I want to think of. My point is, quilt patterns don't get old, right? Colors, sometimes you can be like, ooh, really dated, but like quilt patterns don't. Like, this is classic. This quilt will look good forever. It will never be like, ooh, that's an old-fashioned quilt. It'll always be an amazing quilt. So she has a lot of quilt patterns that are relatively simple, which is also probably part of why I loved her so much when I first started quilting, because this is just very accessible, very doable. The instructions are fantastic. They are still rotary cutting instructions, so when I started quilting, one thing I ran into was a lot of books, a lot of what at the time, were older books, didn't include rotary cutting instructions. Like, it was templates for everything, which is kind of weird. So again, if I did this quilt, this is like kind of classic quilt I would not use these fabrics. But again, you could do like, oh, something that's like, again, I'm thinking of Tula Pink, of course I am. Even, or Tilda, because I'm also a big fan of Tilda fabrics. Like, imagine doing that in Tilda fabrics. It would be beautiful. And the instructions are just so, so good. She also does a lot of like table runners and things. I find her patterns easy to adapt to other things. She does a lot of fall patterns, and I love fall. So this was a big winner for me whenever I got a book of hers that had like a really great fall pattern in it. So let's see if there's any others in here that I really want to show you. It's a lot of her books, including this one, are a really great introduction to a lot of just very classic quilt patterns. There's a log cabin quilt. I don't know what that's technically called, but it's like half of a snowball. Like if you did the diamond on the other corners too, it would be a snowball block. Snowball blocks are another one of my favorites. I give a lot of pizzazz. Look at how cute this is. I think she was like an interior decorator first. So like the pictures I think are usually in her home, and they're very like thoughtfully staged and whatnot. In the back, not that you're gonna be able to see this real well, but like look at that. Those are all the quilt patterns you get in this book. I think her books are amazing and really good value, especially when you can find them like on the secondary market for just a few bucks. So this is one of her books that I think would be, I'm glad I have it in my library, because it just contains a whole lot of blocks, and then also some ideas on how to put those blocks together into different quilts. These books aren't super old. It's tough when there's like not a lot of pictures I can show you, because there's, oh, here. Look at that. That's one that they've put together from the blocks in the book. But the most of this book up front is like teaching these individual blocks. Ooh, this would be a good one to show, if I can show this part of it. See? I'm gonna have to put some of these back as I'm going, or it's gonna be a disaster. Her books, these are the books that I, especially when I was starting, would spend hours. Like I would just lay in bed and just like, you know, like waiting to go to bed, just like flipping through her books. They're just beautiful. And I've made several quilts out of her. This one's really pretty. out of her books. The picnic quilt that my family uses is from hers. Oh, this is adorable. I like that. Basket block and an apple. I'm in heaven. So if you're looking for kind of, these are the blocks in the book. To me, like if you're looking for just kind of a really, like a workhorse book, like it's just a good solid book that you can make lots of projects out of, with really good, really clear instructions, I would really recommend Thimbleberries. I know Lori Holt's all the rage right now, and for good reason. But I also know from my own experience, trying to get some of my own friends into quilting, Lori Holt books can be a little intimidating. Certain blocks can be really intimidating when there's so many pieces and stuff. And I think Thimbleberry stuff is just much more accessible. Here's another one. This has to be one of the later books she did. Ooh, glare. Sorry, glare. There's just, it definitely is one of the later books she did because it's got definitely more updated fabric in it. It looks like they've taken classic Thimbleberries patterns and updated them with new fabrics. And they're so pretty, right? Like, they're simple. They're not artistically unique. But, you know, I know I'm not the only one who considers that their quilting style. And this one is all just Thanksgiving and fall stuff. And it's so good. Of course, I haven't had a chance to make like half the things in here, but I would like to. She does some applique in some of her quilts, although it's mostly piecing. But I really like applique. And she always has like really good templates in here, like to make your own, like a drawing, to make your own templates. How pretty that is. She has a good mix of really big and really small projects. Things that mix piecing and applique. Anything else I want to show you? There's a little bit of embroidery for stems and things. There's an Autumn Splendor table runner. So, anyway. I love Lynette Jensen and Thimbleberries. If I needed to, I could work off Thimbleberries the rest of my life. I don't want to, but I do really like them. If I needed to, I could. Okay, the next one I'm going to show you guys. I have so much stuff crammed in over here. The next author I want to talk to you guys about is Yoko Saito. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Yoko Saito? This is the thing that I wanted. I haven't done anything. I shouldn't say that. I do technically have an applique sewing pouch as a whip from her. I know exactly where it is. It should be getting worked on. Now that I've just thought about it, I'm like, wow, that's embarrassing. That's really embarrassing. I need to get that out and finish it. It's just going to make a nice little sewing pouch. So Yoko Saito, she's Japanese, and I believe, and the what she's known for is like, and it's not just her, I think it's like a style of quilting that's popular over there, is like the tiny, tiny, intricate pieces. I was looking to see if it was going to say how big the actual quilt is in here. My husband bought me this for my birthday or Christmas or something a few years ago. Finished size is about 40 inches square. Okay, so this is probably the thing I'm going to do first from her. It's just kind of like a sampler quilt, but it's a celebration of sewing. and it's beautiful and feels accessible to me, right? So this is kind of, I think, a good place. I'm guessing, I haven't done it yet, but I'm guessing this is a good place to start with her stuff. I have a ton of her books. I'm looking over at my shelf. I think I've got at least a dozen books from her. They're amazing. So I'm also a big fan of making bags. I've gone through, I don't know how many dozens of bags I've made. I've gone through large bag making phases. So a lot of her books contain bags. So I was looking to see if there are any instructions or, you know, anything that I don't want to give away any information I shouldn't be. Look at how beautiful this is. What? These are the sorts of quilt books that I could just like lay in, I usually do this while I'm laying in bed, and just look at for hours. Like, look at the beauty of that. Her work involves piecing, applique, and embroidery, and it's just so intricate and beautiful. She makes a lot of work of these Japanese taupe fabrics, which I have a few of, but not many, although you can get the look without having like technical, sorry, Japanese taupe fabrics. My husband's texting me. The instructions to these books are written very differently than what I'm used to, but they're still doable. I don't know that I would hand one of these books to a beginning quilter and be like, here, have fun. But I think if you have experience with quilting, applique, and embroidery, even a little bit, and have a little bit of an adventurous spirit, I think you can do them. I'm saying that as someone who's never done them. I've just read through the instructions a lot. There's, and you know, there's different standards in different parts of the world for what you include in a pattern, and it changes over time. And so when you pick up one of these books, you might be like, wait a minute. Like, whoa, that's not what, where's the instructions? Like, why didn't you, but people do just fine with what's in the book. So, I think you just kind of have to have a little bit of an adventurous spirit, right? When you're like approaching something like this, and a little bit of faith that it's going to be all right. These are, so I'm trying, I've had a lot of years of being like, well, I'm not going to do that right now. Like, I'm not ready for that for a lot of reasons. So same thing with why Chatelaine Wednesday started, right? Years of me not working on chatelaines, even though I really wanted to and should have been doing it. Yoko Saito's work is one of those, like, I'll do that eventually. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm at the point, though, now where I'm like, okay, now is the time. Oh, man. Okay, I might have to cut this off at some point. This is going to be the first thing I do, though. I'm going to keep this pattern out because I do want to start that. So I'm just going to give you some more eye candy. Seriously, just like Google her books. You can get them a lot on Thrift Books. You can get them on Amazon. Occasionally, Fat Quarter Shop has some. Connecting Threads has carried a lot of her books over the years. So that's how I've ended up with a lot. Look at that. Look at those flowers. Like, aren't you just dying right now? Look how intricate and just stunning that is. I hope y'all aren't just sitting there being like, Amy's weird. She gets like really excited about quilts. I do get really excited about quilts, especially something that to me is so unique and beautiful. So most of the bags that she has patterns for, and of course you don't need to make the blocks into a bag if you don't want to, most of them are like really small bags of various types. And there's instructions for how to do those bags. From my experience reading through them, those instructions may not be as detailed as what we might be used to from some American publishers. Little bunny. But they are there. Look at this basket. And of course, for some of them, you have to source these, and they have the information in the book, but you have to source these fancy handles or something similar. But I don't know this, but I guess I always assumed that a lot of what's in here is intended less as detailed, hey, reproduce what I did exactly, and more as like, here's a jumping off point, like here's what I did, and now you can go make it your own. Like, look at how cute this bag is. How different and unique, just the shape of it. She has books that are just on bags. Here's the quilt from the back. Oh, it's so beautiful. Here's one on her Scandinavian quilts. And I am not a quilt scholar, so I'm not completely uninformed, but I also don't necessarily know. I couldn't explain to you sitting here like what makes a quilt a Scandinavian quilt, right? Like what I'm trying to find some pictures that I can show you, but like what characteristics. I might be able to pick some out visually, but so the other thing about her books is that they are often like the first half is often just like all the eye candy, and then in the back is the instructions, and usually they've like condensed the instructions into like the smallest space possible. They're all there, they're just like kind of in tiny print with tiny little diagrams. Unlike us Americans, I was just talking to my daughter about this the other day, about like, we seem to think bigger is better for everything. That's kind of dumb. So beautiful. Are any of y'all enjoying yourselves? I'm really enjoying myself. Okay, she has a lot of bag books. Look at that. Look at that. They're so beautiful. She does English paper piecing on some things. These beautiful bags. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was a good one. She does all kinds of images and pictures. Look at this. These books are incredible. So we used to, my husband and I used to call it girl porn before we had kids. That's not what real girl porn is, right? But like, this is what we would call girl porn. Template sheets in the back. If you just need some good girl porn, it sounds wrong. Just some really good, like, laying in bed or sitting on the couch and like inspiration, right? These books are just, they are the best. So to me, like the Lynette Jensen stuff is the like standard, tried and true, always gonna work. You know, it's the meat and potatoes, right? And then the Yoko Saito is like the frosting on top. We have a dryer delivery guy coming, or not delivery guy, repair guy coming soon. So I might have to pause again. Look at these quilts. And I won't go, maybe I'll just go through Yoko Saito today, and maybe another day I'll do, I've got so many books here that I want to share with you guys that are just amazing. Why have I not made that bag yet? I love just a standard tote bag, but it's like gorgeous. I even could take some orphan blocks. I better pause. Okay, sorry about that. Oh, my light's a little off. No. Maybe there. Anyway, since I am talking a lot, I'm gonna finish, instead of making myself stop geeking out about Yoko Saito, I'm gonna finish fully geeking out about her stuff. And then I'm gonna save some of the other books for another day. Yeah, how's that sound? Does that sound good? Sounds good, right? Like, look at this. Even pincushions. I'm in love with the stinking cute little pincushions. Look at the little dog. Like, it's in some ways it's so obvious, right? Like, yeah, you can use any like mini, a lot of what she does is miniature, or what I would consider miniature. You could use any quilt block as a pincushion. But it still wouldn't have occurred to me to do those adorable little, like, look at this stuff. It's so cute, and some of the construction of some of the things is so clever. I could look at these books for hours. Be Still My English Paper Piecing Heart. I don't know that that's actually how she did it. I mean, you can do it with just traditional quilting, right? Traditional piecing. Oh my goodness. Look at that. What? Oh, so good. I feel like this bag needs to be made, like right now. Look at the curtain with the quilt blocks on the bottom. These are all out of this book. I hope y'all were planning on shopping today. Because I know I couldn't watch a video like this and not go shopping. Okay, so this one is Yoko Saito and Quilt Party present Irresistible Bags and Pouches. And a lot of what she does is bags. Let me get to some really good eye candy. Some bags. They're like, I don't know, making bigger bags isn't necessarily, I think, any easier because bigger bags, they're just different. I make a lot of really big bags, like diaper bag kind of bags, is what I've made. Look at how beautiful those are. I love the blues in this. I'm not like gonna go through the whole thing, but my favorite kind of bag to carry is just like tote bag. Big open spot to like dump all my stuff. Look at how beautiful these are. I unfortunately, I can't like make any claims, like I said, on how easy her instructions are to follow and whatnot, given that I have really just spent years drooling over her work and not doing it. Although that's one thing I hope to change this year. Sorry, my dog's barking. I've done really well at embracing working on chatelaines. I'm just trying to see which ones I've already shown you. And so this year I hope to do a better job of working on, oh, sorry, I moved you again. I hope to do a better job of, I want to start some Yoko Saito. I also want to do some of the Crabapple Hill Studio embroidery that I have waiting around to be done. And yeah, those are kind of like my biggies. I also now have the dryer repairman downstairs, so you might hear him banging. So this one is traditional quilt patterns, traditional block patterns. There's 66 different blocks in here. And this book focuses more on actual, like big quilts and less on bags. Although I don't know if I've ever seen her have a book that doesn't have some bags in it. Look at this. Oh my goodness. I look at things like this and I'm like, I've been wasting my life. Because I've never produced anything that amazing. Like, what? Oh my gosh. Goals. Goals, man. So there's a lot of, I can't show you a lot of these. There's just block instructions. Again, I love baskets. They're one of my favorite kinds of blocks. Doesn't matter what kind of basket. So this page is all the blocks. I'm not expecting you to be able to read that, but just so you can kind of get a snapshot visual of what's included in there. Here's a quilt made with some of them. Look, it's just, oh, I love a mix of piecing and applique and embroidery and all of the things. They're so good. I'm like determined now. I'm so glad I'm doing this because it's like re-inspiring me. Try to avoid instructions. If anyone else out there has this or wants to do this with me as kind of I don't want to do it as like a sew along, but like support group. If anyone wants to start a support group with me for a Yoko Saito project, tell me. I would love to kind of be working with someone. There's so many books. Quilts and projects from my favorite fabrics. Oh my God. Her stuff is just amazing. If you don't want to just look at, if you don't want to look at beautiful pictures with me, you can go if you want, but this is all I'm going to be doing for the rest of my video. Look at how beautiful. I am in awe of her work. I think her work is absolutely amazing. Look at this owl. And I almost never hear anyone mention her. I've been collecting her books for years. I mean, since like the first moment I saw one of her projects, I was like, oh my goodness, that is my quilting hero right there. I need all things, like everything she's ever published. Sewing set. She's just stinking amazing. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so beautiful. And her flowers, to me, her flowers look so realistic and so unique. They're not, I like all kinds of applique and flowers, but hers, they're less cartoony than a lot of applique patterns. Not that there's anything wrong with the more cartoony flowers either, but I find this just relatively unique and inspiring and just so stunning. I know the bag I'm working on from her, it's got all these really fiddly little pieces to there's like a bird on it. It's not, it's just more fiddly than some of the projects that I've done. Some of the applique projects I've done, but still really enjoyable. And yes, I'm still going. Japanese taupe color theory. And again, there's gonna be a ton of bags in here. I wonder if there's any full-size quilts in here. I don't know. Lots and lots of bags. But also if you're an experienced quilter, right, you might see something that you want to scale up. And this really goes, this book I've actually read, and really goes into the color theory and exactly what a Japanese taupe is and how they're used. And I found it very interesting and like very educational, not just instructions on how to do a quilt, but very, I mean, very much like a class in this sort of quilting that is not typically what we see here most times in the US. Hopefully I wasn't showing too much of those pages. I should be more careful. Look at how beautiful that is. And I love it. I find the color palettes so soothing and relaxing. Here. These are the color groupings that she goes through in the book. But then there's projects to do. But this one's definitely a little more like textbooky, not in a boring way. I mean, I think textbooks are amazing, but I know they're not everyone's jam. I just like, oh my gosh, so stinking beautiful. I'm not gonna get anything done today because all I'm gonna be doing is reading through these books. And then this is one of the first books that I got, I think. I don't know. Housewarming Patchwork. Sorry, my dog. My husband's about to come in the door too, I think. So this has, I can't show you a lot of it because they're block instructions, but also little project instructions. So it has the instructions for the blocks. And then also how to make, that's a business card holder. Oh my gosh. All right, can I show you this? Look at that thistle. I love it. I love it so much. It's so complicated for such a tiny little block. And it's so cute. I just can't even get over it. They're just amazing. Oh my gosh, there is a beetle. Look at that beetle. Look at how cute he is. I wonder if there's a moth. I'm thinking about you, Kelly. Pages and Stitches. The cat and dog. So cute. This one's a little different. There's instructions scattered throughout the book, so it requires a little more paging through. I wonder if this one has an American publisher. Compass bag. Look at how beautiful that is. I just think that all of you who quilt, and even if you don't, you should go out and buy all of the Yoko Saito books. Hi, Scott.
Hey.
You're on camera just a little. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind. Does she want to go out?
She probably wants to go out. She also hasn't had her BONE yet. And there's a repairman in the basement, so she's pretty amped up. Look at the robot pouch. I'm almost done. Oh my God. Look at that. Look at how cute that is. Anyway, I'll stop now. I have a surprisingly large amount of stuff to clean up. I've got some other books and stuff too, but so that's just some of the stuff that I find inspiring, right? That's Thimbleberries stuff is often for me like a place to start. When I first started quilting, it was definitely like, I'm just gonna follow the instructions. For me now, it's often a place to start, and I might change something up, or yeah. They're just, but I love her stuff. It's just so unfussy and just kind of the basic quilting that I was so drawn to initially and still am when I started quilting. And then Yoko Saito is this just like amazing artist that blows my mind. Not just the stuff she comes up with visually, but the execution of picking the fabrics and using such tiny pieces and doing it well and being so like, just everything she does is like so original and unique and unusual, and I love it. I'm keeping this out. I'm gonna read through this book tonight, and I am gonna start to figure out how to actually attack this. What do you guys think? If anyone else is interested, let me know in kind of being a support group for this or a different Yoko Saito project. I just love her stuff. Hopefully I've inspired some of you guys today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully next time I'll have more quilting content. I've been itching to get back to my machine for something other than my mystery projects. So hopefully that'll come soon. Okay guys, I think that's it. I hope you enjoy your week. I hope you enjoy whatever crafting time you're able to get, and I'll see you soon. Bye.